Yesterday, the Tour de France passed some of the most famous vineyards of the nation, but the wine of life was more important as the riders sought the cold showers offered en route. The Frenchman Thierry Marie, the lone escape expert, continued the trend of taking a shower, even as he raced to a 2 minutes lead. But it was to no avail. He was caught. The temperatures then rose again in the hottest sprint seen since the race left Charleroi. To prove it, Eric Zabel was the winner in Bordeaux. Overall, there was no change in the race, Miguel Indurain keeping his yellow jersey, Alex Zula in second place. But the race for third place is still very much on between Bjarne Riis and Laurent Jalabert. The British rider Max Chiandri, who finished 6th yesterday, is on course for a confident finish in Paris. And the final preparations underway this morning at the finish line here in Limoges. Well, we are standing on top of what I think we call a false flat, but it is a gentle climb for 2 kilometres. It might be just enough to fool the sprinters today. But we all felt yesterday it would be a sprint finish, and many felt the winner would be Jamaluddin Abdu-Japarov. What has happened to this rider this year? He hasn't won a stage yet. Here's Paul Sherway now to give us his opinion.
The reason Jan Raas's Novell team signed Jamaluddin Abdu-Japarov this year and paid him an estimated £750,000 was because they wanted stage wins, like this one from last year by the Tashkent Terror. After all, he has won 5 stages in the past 2 years. In a sprint finish, he's always easy to spot because of his erratic sprinting style. That's why the other riders tend to give him plenty of space in which to work, as they know he feels that the whole road belongs to him. Abdu-Japarov still has an awful lot of power as he uses all of his compact body, especially his strong arms and shoulders, to push and pull on the handlebars. But what he does appear to have lost is the suppleness needed to convert that power into pure speed. This is the first thing a rider tends to lose in advancing years. He may still be among the best sprinters in the world, but his force now is more effective in the slower, slightly uphill finishes. Despite dangerously dashing across the road in search of Eric Zabel on the approach to the line, from this overhead view, you can easily see the faster pedalling action of the German, who's almost 7 years younger than Abdu-Japarov.
And today the race passes through the beautiful Dordogne and into the Haute-Vienne, racing 166 kilometres from Montpon, Menesterol to Limoges. Just 3 small climbs along the route and 2 sprints are on the menu as well. On the rollout this morning, and the field now feeling free to dream of the Champs-Élysées on Sunday. There's still time for Jamaluddin Abdu-Japarov to make amends. He has just 2 chances left, today and Sunday. And at the first sprint at Ville-Turex, Britain's Max Chiandri won here from Didier Roux and Johan Bruneel. And I think that was a sure sign that Abdu-Japarov has given up his quest for his 4th green jersey in this event, and Laurent Jalabert will take that now in Paris.
It may well be that he's thinking a little bit more about the stage victory which has eluded him this year, but the riders will have an extremely hot day again. Nearly 38 degrees centigrade is forecast for later on this afternoon. Hardly any wind at all to cool down the riders, although there will be a slight southerly wind around about 20 kilometres an hour.
And it has been an excellent day of racing today in very hot sunshine indeed. This is now the leading group of 12 riders, establishing itself around about 75-80 kilometres from the finish, and we've still around about 40+ kilometres to get down to the line. 12 men are in the escape, and one of them is the British rider Max Chiandri, already a stage winner this year in the finish down at Saint-Etienne. Other members of this breakaway: Lance Armstrong of the Motorola team, he's the only American up here, and then we have Rolf Jerman, Vyacheslav Yekimov, Johan Bruneel, Jean-Cyril Robin, Martin Den Bakker, Adriano Taffi, Andrea Ferrigato, Bruno Kengialta, Laurent Dufaux and Massimo Lelli. None of these riders are going to worry Miguel Indurain today, and for that reason, Paul, with a lead of around about 3:40 at the moment, it's a good break to be in, I think.
Definitely, it was a hard break to be in because there were an awful lot of attacks happening before this break actually got clear and established the lead they have at the moment. And the most dangerous man is in fact Bruno Kengialta, who's 17th this morning, more than half an hour behind Miguel Indurain in the overall standings, which is why for the moment the Banesto squad just aren't chasing.
Now, you were a little bit critical of Lance Armstrong on the road down to Revel because of his enthusiasm in that very long breakaway of almost 200 kilometres. And in the end, he was beaten in the sprint by the Ukrainian Sergei Uchikov. Well, he does seem to be riding with a little bit more sense in this breakaway.
Well, you know, he's had a hard time these last couple of days, and bear in mind that Jamokovic was away from the race yesterday. He went down there to Como to the funeral yesterday of Fabio Casatelli. flew back from Italy this morning so that he could be with Armstrong for this big stage, and that would be a great thing for Armstrong if he could take it and dedicate it to the memory of Casatelli, because you know Armstrong is the kind of rider who rides on emotion.
And now they're coming up towards the top of the climb of the Côte de Villeneuve, and the pressure is on, but nobody's sprinting it out at all. Ferragati it was who went over the top there, but they haven't used this as a springboard because there are too many watchful eyes in this breakaway, I think, Paul, and they're just going to keep a nice steady rhythm and share the pace for a bit longer yet.
They will do, but Armstrong in fact has waited, and he's decided now's the time to go, and he's gone right down the right-hand side of the road as he looked across to see that there was no reaction from the main group, and that is a superb attack by the man from Plano in Texas, now residing in Austin.
So Armstrong has decided to go. He waited till he just tipped over the top of the Côte de Villeneuve. He's leaving himself a fair way to go alone. And now are the bunch going to organise themselves in the chase? Because we're looking at the main escape of the day. It's pretty safe now that this group will not be caught. And Armstrong now is trying to thin it out. This initial attack, well, if he has to go alone, I think he's quite prepared to. I don't think he'd be too worried if one or two riders reached him to give him a hand.
Definitely not. The gap over the main field there, in fact, was 5 minutes, and this is the moment when everybody was just sitting up over the top of that climb, and Lance Armstrong just looked over his shoulder, saw that everyone was disinterested, and thought, now's the time for me to have a go. If I can just surprise them and get 20 or 30 seconds, that might be just what I need.
And so Lance Armstrong of the Motorola team now rushing off into the distance, and I have to say there is no real reaction here from the back of this group. As our camera gets up to the front, the one man is trying to go clear, looks like Laurent Dufault.
Well, that is the thing that's going to happen now. Because there are 11 riders left in this back group, everyone now will be thinking about saving a little bit of energy for the attacks that are going to come afterwards. Armstrong caught them all napping just at the top of that climb, the Côte de Villeneuve. Superb move, and you know he's flying along at the moment. He's got it in his big gear, which is probably, for the connoisseurs, a 12-tooth sprocket at the moment, and you can see how he's actually throwing those gears round, riding at something like 35 miles an hour. We've got a chance here to get an initial time check. It's only about 12 seconds, but you can see there's no organised chase behind.
And that's what Armstrong won't know, but will hope for. And Martin Den Bakker, there is nothing here, Paul. Den Bakker's freewheeling and saying, well, somebody else can come and do the work. It's going to take a little while, I think, to organise something here.
Well, one man who should take up the chase pretty quickly, I would think, is Rolf Jährmann, and that may well be who is at the front at the moment. There are two men from the MG squad in this breakaway. One of them is a fast finisher, Maximilian Chianri, so the Swiss rider will have to do the work and try and claw his way back to the Flying Texan.
And there is a lot of dead wood now in this breakaway as we go back up to the leader. Armstrong now pedalling on his own, leaving himself a fair way to ride, but not an impossible distance by any means. We've all seen how Lance has improved his riding against the watch on his own, and now he's got a chance to show us again that he can hold them all off.
Well, this is a man who's determined to get away from the rest of that group. There, 11 men are chasing him down at the moment. 26 kilometres to go, so that's something like round about 14 miles. It's an awful long way on your own, but Armstrong's face here is decided that that's what he wants to do. He wants to go away to Limoges and try and win on his own.
So Armstrong has flown the coupe, and we are about 26 kilometres from the finish now. Can he make it? We'll take a break.
When this rider got a flat in 1924, he could have waited for the team support car. He'd have been by the side of the road for a good 20 years, though. The days when riding the Tour meant doing it yourself. After the break. In the 20s, being an all-round cyclist meant fixing your own flats, even if you're a great rider like Ottavio Battecchia. Here he is demonstrating his lung power by blowing up his tyre without a pump. It can't have cost him much time, though. Battecchia won the 1924 Tour by 35 minutes. Nowadays, of course, there are almost as many backup cars as bikes in the race, and easily more members of the press than riders. And when they all come together on the finish line every day, the result is chaos. It's organised chaos, though, and the man doing the organising is Philippe Soud. Yellow might rule the road, but the finish line is the fiefdom of the men in the blue button-downs. Philippe Soud, having a last fag before business begins in earnest, is the man with the almost impossible job of keeping the media happy and controlling them at the same time. As time ticks down to the bunch sprint and photographers arrive every few seconds, it's Philippe's responsibility to make sure that the mass ranks almost filling the road don't endanger either themselves or the riders. He's never too stressed, though, to do a bit of bonjouring. Finally, everything's set. Once the race is safely over, Philippe starts his second job, chaperoning the stars to their home broadcasters. Philippe is powerful enough to go anywhere he likes, as we discovered when we temporarily lost him. Back at the commentary tribune, Philippe is delivering Eric Zabel to German television. And as soon as that's done, he's thinking ahead to his next job. So now Mick's safely delivered. Time to deal with a couple of quick technical questions. He's back to his role as Eric Zabel's TV tour guide. Interview number 2 over, it's off to the press conference wagon. Philippe's still cool, but his shirt is beginning to show the strain.
We've got to go quick to the TV. The show will be finished.
Final interview stop is the French Live post-race show. Zabel makes it just in time.
Okay.
A bit more bonjouring backstage, and Philippe is almost ready for his final chore of the day, taking Eric to the doctors for his drug test appointment. There's one last delay for autographs. Then, with Zabel safely inside and doing yet another interview on the phone, Philippe is finally free to head back to the hotel, change his shirt, and get ready to face the whole process again tomorrow.
Well, thanks, Gary, but I'll tell you what, Philippe Soudre pays us a lot of, gives us a lot of help over the years on the Tour de France. We're very indebted to him. We're now back with the man who is setting the pace, though, on the Tour de France today, and this is Lance Armstrong. He's now inside 6 miles from the finish. He broke away. He's built a lead of about 55 seconds. The last we saw, there were 2 chasing riders after him from this original break of 12. Max Chiandri, the British rider, has tried, but he's missed the chase at the moment. It's Martin Dembacker in the front here as they go into 10 kilometres to go, and behind him is Andrea Tappi. 2 riders chasing, and the gap at 55 seconds. The big field, by the way, is now 6¼ minutes behind.
Well, they're resigned, I think, to the fact that these 12 riders who escaped early on in the stage are going to take the first 12 places, but the man doing a great job at the front, Lance Armstrong. And this is the group of 9 riders that are left chasing the 3 men in front, going under the 10-kilometre banner, 6 miles to go for these riders too. But still, I can't understand the lack of work by the MG squad, because Chiandri is losing a chance of winning the stage here.
Well, there's news which I think you'll like to see. Lance Armstrong to our right is the green board, which we often call the blackboard, is telling him it's 55 seconds to the 2 chasers and more than a minute now back to the other 9 riders in that bunch. The peloton, we can forget today. All of the favourites are staying together, that's for sure now. The only trouble is, Paul, that the approach to the finish, we get into the ripples around the Limoges area here, and it is a hard climb to the finish if you're at full pace like Armstrong has been for so long.
But when you've been at the front of the race for 30 kilometres on your own, it's a very long climb up to the finish line. It's 2 kilometres, it doesn't look very much, especially in the car. You don't have to change gear very much, but when you've been pounding that big gear for 18 miles, Armstrong is really going to suffer to the top of this climb. But behind, looking at these chasing group, they really aren't decided as to whether or not they should chase. And I think the advantage Armstrong has is the riders in this group are all possible winners. A lot of them won stages in the Tour de France, and they don't want to give a chance to somebody else.
Well, Armstrong is clear. The group, by the way, is only 10 seconds behind the 2 pursuers now, so I think they're going to be swept up, and they'll be then all together in pursuit of Armstrong once again. Here they are. Martin Dembacker of the TVM team, former amateur champion of Holland, and Andrea Tappi.
Well, Martin Dembacker really has come along over the last couple of years. We said a couple of times he did finish second in the Tour de l'Avenir last year, having held the yellow jersey all the way through until the final stage when it came to the time trial, and he lost it there. They're inside the town of Limoges now, and it won't be very long before we get another time check on Lance Armstrong, who last time check was 1 minute and 15 seconds clear. But the 2 riders in between really aren't making any headway on this chasing group now.
Well, in fact, the chasing group themselves, led by Ferrigati at the moment, seem to have slowed down a little bit as well. Max Chiandri wants the others to come through and do some of the work, but they're not organised now. Johan Brunel in the pink hasn't really bothered to contribute much at all to this breakaway. And Lely, who's second from the back of this line, well, he's former amateur champion of Holland. and Andrea Tappi.
Well, Martin Dimbacher really has come along over the last couple of years. We said a couple of times he did finish second in the Tour de l'Avenir last year, having held the yellow jersey all the way through until the final stage when it came to the time trial, and he lost it there. They're inside the town of Limoges now, and it won't be very long before we get another time check on Lance Armstrong, who last time check was 1 minute and 15 seconds clear, but the two riders in between really aren't making any headway on this chasing group now.
Well, in fact, the chasing group themselves, led by Ferrigati at the moment, seem to have slowed down a little bit as well. Max Chiandri wants the others to come through and do some of the work, but they're not organised now. Johan Brunel in the pink hasn't really bothered to contribute much at all to this breakaway. And Lely, who's second from the back of this line, well, he seems to have lost a little bit of enthusiasm as well. So this is all airing well for Lance Armstrong. His hat has already gone into the wind now. He's down to hanging on and getting the stage win. And I think, you know, Paul, I'm beginning to feel he might just do it.
I think so. The latest check over the race radio is 1 minute over the two chasers, 1 minute 10 over the remainder of that group that he was with. But you get a chance here to look at Lance Armstrong's position as we flick back to the two chasers. In fact, he has changed. If we go back to him, you'll see he's much more powerful. He's a lot further back on his saddle, and he looks more aerodynamic than he used to.
Andrea Tappi having an excellent season on Tony Rominger's Map 18. But I think he missed the boat here. He probably was quite upset when he saw Armstrong go, but he should have been watching for it. Armstrong didn't attack where everybody thought he would, going up the climb. When they were all relaxing and turning off on the top of the climb, he flew down the road and was out of sight before they really got their thoughts together. And that was a fine piece of tactic.
Excellent move. He waited and looked across. Everybody had just ridden up that climb. I think all these riders had expected an attack to come on that climb, and when they got to the top, they let out a big sigh of relief. It hadn't come, and that is the moment that Armstrong decided to make his move, when they were all just leaning for their bottles, just looking for a drink, and bang, there he was, and the gap was immediate.
Well, Armstrong is clear. The group, by the way, is only 10 seconds behind the two pursuers now, so I think they're going to be swept up. And they'll be then all together in pursuit of Armstrong once again. Here they are. Martin Dimbacher of the TVM team, former amateur champion of Holland, and Andrea Tappi.
Well, Martin Dimbacher really has come along over the last couple of years. We said a couple of times he did finish second in the Tour de l'Avenir last year, having held the yellow jersey all the way through until the final stage when it came to the time trial, and he lost it there. They're inside the town of Limoges now, and it won't be very long before we get another time check on Lance Armstrong, who last time check was 1 minute and 15 seconds clear, but the two riders in between really aren't making any headway on this chasing group now.
Well, in fact, the chasing group themselves, led by Ferrigati at the moment, seem to have slowed down a little bit as well. Max Chiandri wants the others to come through and do some of the work, but they're not organised now. Johan Brunel in the pink hasn't really bothered to contribute much at all to this breakaway. And Lely, who's second from the back of this line, well, he seems to have lost a little bit of enthusiasm as well. So this is all airing well for Lance Armstrong. His hat has already gone into the wind now. He's down to hanging on and getting the stage win. And I think, you know, Paul, I'm beginning to feel he might just do it.
I think so. The latest check over the race radio is 1 minute over the two chasers, 1 minute 10 over the remainder of that group that he was with. But you get a chance here to look at Lance Armstrong's position as we flick back to the two chasers. In fact, he has changed. If we go back to him, you'll see he's much more powerful. He's a lot further back on his saddle, and he looks more aerodynamic than he used to.
Armstrong still tapping out the rhythm, still hanging on in there and still holding on. He's a kilometre in front of the pursuers.
Well, that kilometre is probably something like 1 minute 10 seconds on the road like this, because these riders are doing approximately 35 miles an hour at the moment, and Armstrong still not weakening, still finding the energy to keep pushing those pedals around. He's been at the front now for something like 16 miles, just 2 miles to go, and he's going to take a wonderful stage victory. He'll have a lot of time to think this time. He didn't have to try and out sprint anybody else. He's on his own, and you can see on his left shoulder there the black band, which is in respect for Fabio Casatelli, who passed away just a couple of days ago.
Armstrong dodging the straw bales, but now not even these two surely can close a kilometre on the American rider in the distance that remains to the finish. The only thing that gives us a little slight concern is the 2 kilometre drag up to the finishing line. But I don't think Lance, when he gets inside that 2 kilometre banner, is going to be caught by anybody except his team car.
looking at the way these two riders are going, you know they've been riding well together, but they don't have the same conviction. As they get closer to the finish, they will start to think about the second place, and that is when the impetus will go out of their chase, although they do know there are 9 men chasing them behind. Armstrong pegging these kilometres every few minutes now. That is going to be 3 kilometres to go. That's not very much more than 1.5 miles for the man at the front, and the road starts to go up a little bit now. He gets out of the saddle, he looks for the gear, he's fighting a lot, he's getting every last little bit of his energy out. Look at him now, out of the saddle, pumping those pedals around because he feels this stage victory, he wants this stage victory, and you know, Phil, he's going to get it.
He is now, Paul, that is for sure. The main field, by the way, we don't have much interest in them today, is now 7 minutes behind. But this is the man that we are going to talk about, and this is the man that we are going to appreciate today, because Lance Armstrong, his team has known every emotion in this Tour de France, and now we're going to remember this for a very happy one.
Most definitely, he knows he's got the victory there. A little professional move as he pulls up the zip. He's sitting down, he's not dying at all on this climb. He's giving everything he's got. He's forcing himself, he's getting every last little bit of energy back. He knows that he's got the gap, he knows he's got the stage victory. Very soon he'll see that banner which indicates about 400 metres to go, and he'll be able to savour what I think for him will be one of the sweetest victories of his career so far.
It'll be very special for everyone on the Motorola team tonight. Now, I was about to say, he usually conducts the orchestra when he wins, and this looks like the start of it. Lance Armstrong isn't going to worry about time gains today. He's just going to worry about the victory for himself, for Team Motorola, and for Fabio Casatelli. Lance Armstrong now looks to the skies as he comes home. He dedicates this stage to the teammate Fabio Casatelli. This one, Fabio, is for you. So Armstrong comes to the line on what for him will be a very special, poignant moment. Ferragati comes up, he broke away, and he was the strongest of the rest of that group. He was up there in the sprint yesterday. Now he's showing he can stay the distance as well, and the Ferragato takes second place. And Vyacheslav Yekimov stomps away to take third place on the line from Laurent Dufaux and Martin Denbacker as they come up towards the finish there. And then I think I said Martin Dufaux there, but it was his teammate Jean-Cyril Robin who hung on for the place. This is Lely. Almost a minute has ticked by now. And let's go immediately to Paul Sherwin, who is with Lance Armstrong.
Lance, at the finish line there, you looked up at the skies. What were you thinking about?
Oh, well, there's no question what's been on our mind for the past 3 days, and I think it's been on everybody's mind. And not that we set out to win the bike race today. We only meant to be here and try to recover it. But certainly Fabio was motivating me today, and I thought of him every second. It was super, because all day the people on the side of the road never let me forget. Not that I was going to forget, but the people were very supportive, and there wasn't a minute that went by that I didn't hear poor Fabio.
You know, you came to this Tour de France, you wanted 2 things before you went away. You wanted to finish to get to Paris, and you wanted to take a stage victory. You've almost succeeded in doing both.
Well, we're almost finished, which is nice, and certainly I wanted to win the stage. I was close one day, but came up short, and then we had the tragedy, and I didn't think that it was going to happen, because I was too devastated. Everybody was devastated, and my mind was in another place. It all came together today.
Well done, Lance. Understandably a little emotional in that interview with Paul Sherwin. This is now the arrival of the main field, and look at the clock, almost 8 minutes has gone by. All of the men that matter on the overall leaderboard are safely home in this bunch. They haven't had a tough day today. Laurent Brochard bringing them clear across the line. So Motorola get their win. Lance Armstrong taking the honours today ahead of Andrea Ferragato and Vyacheslav Yekimov bringing in the small chase group. In 10th place, Max Chiandri of Great Britain. Armstrong on the podium tonight, and at last a smile beginning to appear on the Texan's face. The overall situation, again among the leaders, hasn't changed tonight. We go to the time trial tomorrow with Miguel Indurain, Alex Zula and Bjorn Rees in that order. But look at the other times here. There will be a shift in the order of this classification tomorrow, I'm sure of that. And another yellow jersey for Miguel Indurain tonight. Always a long sleeve one, note, even when the weather's as warm as this. He certainly makes sure he doesn't catch cold. And do have a go at our competition to guess Sunday's winner in Paris when the race ends on the Champs-Élysées. Give your selection to our dedicated phone number, which is 0891 444477, and you could win a set of leaders' jerseys. And the victory tonight by Lance Armstrong was well taken and well merited. This was not a present from the riders in the Tour de France. Yet, after he crossed the finishing line, there were understandably tears from him and from his team manager Jim Okowitz. The affection shown by the organisation of the Tour de France was genuine, and so too was the congratulations from the riders in this race. Well, tomorrow is the final time trial in the Tour de France. Now, Bjorn Ries came close last time he clashed with Miguel Indurain. I wonder if he'll beat him this time. Tomorrow we're going to see a great race. Do join us tomorrow night. Until then, goodbye.